Hey everyone, it's Justine and welcome. Today I'm going to give you 3 card ideas on how to make a birthday card in under 5 minutes. It can be super stressful when all of a sudden someone comes to you and says, "Hey, do you happen to have a birthday card in your stash? I'm running out right now and I need one." The answer is always no. I never have the card that I need in my stash, ever. And so that stresses me out. Or how about that early morning, "Hey, my colleague has a birthday today and I need a card. I was supposed to bring it today and you need to be at work in 15 minutes. Breathe. So I have 3 ideas on how to make a great birthday card in under 5 minutes. And not only that, but be sure to stick around to the end of the video because I'm going to give you a couple of checklists here to see, is my craft room 5-minute card ready? So let's dive into the 3 cards we're going to make today. I'm going to set a timer and they'll be in real time, and let's see if I can finish these cards in under 5. So let the countdown begin. We're starting off with our first card here. And my first tip is to use a big solid stamp. Now, if you're using a solid stamp, make sure that you have inks that work well with solid stamps. I know not all inks ink up solid stamps very well, which is nice when you have a stamp platform like a Misti, for example, then you can stamp it multiple times. But I like to use my Catherine Pooler inks because I get good coverage every single time, even on solid stamps. So I'm using some party dress ink here and inking up my stamp here carefully, and I'm going to stamp this. So I always recommend to use something quite large, something solid, so it creates a solid focal point without a lot of effort. So now picking up my stamp platform here, I am going ahead and I have my background already stamped and I'm less than a minute in, so doing quite well. So now what to do with it? I've decided to take a birthday cover plate die. I've used this in a couple videos before, and I really love this die because it cuts the birthday letters out of your backgrounds. It's a little bit different than a standard die, but you also have the letters left over if you want to make a second card later on. Now, I don't think I'm going to actually get to making 2 cards in under 5 minutes, so I'll stick with the 1. I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine, and instead of boring you to tears while you wait for it to go through, I've just decided to speed up the timer. Did you know it takes about 16 seconds to run through the die cutting machine? Never thought that I would need to know that type of information. So I'm just going to take all of this out of my die here, and I'm going to get my card base all ready. I always use the same size for the most part, unless otherwise stated, 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, and I'm using my bone folder to get a nice crisp edge. Now I started to add my glue here, and I knew that the letters were going to be open, and so what I decided to do was actually cut down a piece of black cardstock so I could stick it behind so that it wasn't kind of a white on white look. Originally when I tried this card, I had just glued this particular background onto the card base, but honestly it just looked a little too white. It was a little too much white. So I'm grabbing that black cardstock now. I'm using a nice, really dark cardstock. This is from Simon Says Stamp. It's one of my favorite black cardstocks on the market. And I'm pushing that down and adding my cover on top since I've already added the glue. I almost just glued it right on top of my card base like before. Sometimes you just forget things. And then all that's really left to do is to fill in the insides of the letters. And so you have this area here, and you just need to be a little bit careful as to which one belongs where. As you can see, when I do this, I accidentally put one of the wrong ones in place at first and needed to quickly lift it. That's why I like to use liquid glue, because it's quite forgiving, to be honest. And so I always like to use that so I have a little bit of time to lift things up if I make any mistakes. So just adding a few of those here, and then that's when I realized I needed to put one of the ones with the pink flowers there. And I think this looks really great. It's super simple. It's got those really crisp colors of the white, pink, and black that really make that pink shine, I think. And even though I only have less than a minute left to go, I decided to go ahead and stamp happy onto it as well. And so it didn't just say birthday. And I grabbed this stamp here from My Favorite Things. This is a great stamp called the Bitty Birthday Wishes, and it comes with just tons of small sentiments like this, all birthday related. And I'm only inking up the happy instead of the entire sentiment. So I stamped that just quickly on top, and you could always add in a couple of embellishments if you want some sequins or color it over with a glitter marker, but I decided to complete that in 4 minutes. I also wanted to mention that today I'm doing a collaboration with Crafty Not Shifty, aka Laura, over on her channel. Actually, I think Laura's one of the people that I first collaborated with, like, ever, when I started making video tutorials back in probably like 2014 or something like that. And so I'm super excited to be partnering up with her today. And don't forget that this collaboration I actually did last year as well. So if you're interested in checking out another few ideas on how to make birthday cards quickly, I'll link to that video at the end. All right, getting into card number 2. I'm going to place this card here at the top of my stamping tool, and I'm going to secure it with a magnet. Now this card here, I had given it a couple of tries before I settled on a design. I'm using this really great sentiment stamp from the Ton, and you'll notice that a piece of the lettering is missing, and this is part of the genius of Effie at the Ton. There are different sentiments that you can fill in with that happy, so there's a whole bunch of different words that come with the sentiments. And she has a few of these out now, and they're really, really great to have in your stash because you can easily create things with multiple colors, and which isn't so easy to do without masking when they're all one piece. So I just made sure I had a really dark black, so I stamped that twice using my Misti stamping tool. And I'm going to go ahead and add in the birthday sentiment now, since this is all about birthday cards. And I'm going to be able to stamp that now in a separate color. You'll see that it's already stained pink because I was trying this card out before I filmed, and that's the color that I've chosen. I've just decided to stick with a certain color palette of pink and black and white. And I think that by sticking with just one, maybe two colors, you're going to make cards a lot quicker. So just kind of like the first principle I talked about when making the first card of choosing a solid large stamp as a focal point, here I'm choosing kind of the opposite in the sense that I'm choosing a large sentiment instead of an image. So I'm going to go ahead and take this transformation butterfly stamp. This is also from the Ton. And this here is this gorgeous butterfly. It has sort of a half a butterfly look and then half florals for the wings, which is really pretty. And I'm going to grab a piece of Post-it tape. And this is exactly 1 inch Post-it tape. And the sentiment just happens to be 1 inch as well. So I'm just covering it with the Post-it tape. And then I'm going to go ahead and lay the butterfly across here. So now that I've picked that up, I'm actually going to stamp it in 2 colors. And at first I started inking up in black, but I'm going to tell you that it's probably a lot better to ink up in pink first and then the black, because the pink's not really going to contaminate a black ink pad. But I was pretty careful when I did this. So I stamped 1/2 of the butterfly in the party dress. I went back in with the black just to ensure that all the areas of the butterfly were actually inked up. And then I stamped this. And you'll notice that the Post-it tape is going to obviously not or protect the sentiment. But when I lifted it up, I did think it looked a little bit funny when I removed the Post-it tape. So I have a little solution for you here. So remove the Post-it tape. You'll see that when I do this, you can tell it's a butterfly, but it doesn't actually have all the details that I want in it. So I decided some generational stamping was in order. So I grabbed a piece of scrap paper and I inked up my butterfly stamp again. And the scrap paper is going to also act as a mask, just like the Post-it tape did. And so I could have saved myself with that step if I knew this was what I was going to do and just left the Post-it tape on and inked and stamped again. Now I am removing the scrap piece of paper and I'm stamping a second time. So automatically the second time there's not as much ink on my stamp and it's going to be quite light and faded. So I don't think it takes away from the sentiment at all, but it still had the details that I needed from that butterfly stamp. So once again, just creating my card base very quickly here and folding that in half, and then I'm going to glue the cover on top. Now I do find that using a tape runner can be a lot quicker than using liquid glue, and since I'm just gluing on my panel right now, I'm just going to use my tape runner here, and I'm going to stick this on the top. And so that's the end of this card here. I love the details of that butterfly, and especially how it gets that faded look behind the sentiment. It looks really, really great and elegant. Here's a final look at that card for you. So my question of the day is, what is the type of card that you often need in a hurry? For me, it tends to be 2 occasions. Birthdays, because they come around quite often and I'm terrible at remembering people's birthdays, as well as sympathy cards, because those can be quite unexpected times. So I hope this video here in particular gives you enough techniques that you can swap the ideas for an easy sympathy card or any other type of card that you can have ready and on hand in less than 5 minutes. So moving into the third card now, I am going in with a background stamp. This is another great way to save a lot of time. You're creating a focal piece, you're almost like creating your own pattern paper. So I'm inking this up with my pink ink pad once again, and I like to stamp my background stamps like this. I just simply lay down the paper on top of the stamp and then grab a piece of copy paper and run my fingers over it. I find I get really great results doing like this rather than in the Misti stamping tool where sometimes the stamp's too heavy and falls off. So once I stamped my background, I have this really great background here. All I really need to do is add a large sentiment or something similar to the front of it, and then it's all said and done. So I'm going to grab the Happy dies from Catherine Pooler. This comes with one shadow die and one regular Happy die. So you get a thick, a thin Happy, and then the shadow to go behind it, which is really great. And I'm going to cover these in some white and black cardstock here and run those through my die cutting machine once again. And then when I take them out, I just need to quickly poke them out of the die. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue the intricate font here onto the shadow background. And I'm just using some black cardstock here, as I said, and then adding the white fine detail on here. And what that does is it creates that really big pop of color. I think whenever you add black to a card, it makes every other color on there pop. So you can really see the pink background, and then it also gives a beautiful frame to the white Happy sentiment. Okay, so I'm just going to glue this onto my card base once again, and I needed obviously to stamp birthday on here. You know what was really interesting is I was looking through my stash of dies and I actually don't have a happy birthday die. I don't even know how that's actually possible, and so I needed to look for a birthday stamp, so I just used the same birthday stamp that I used for the sentiment that we did in the previous card with the butterfly. So I grabbed that birthday once again and I stuck it on here. Now, I didn't want it to get too lost in the background, so I stamped it in black, and I stamped it also multiple times. And I think that suffices, but you could have also stamped it on a separate piece of paper and then added it on top if you think that it gets too lost. So here is my quick and easy checklist to ensure that you are 5-minute card ready. This will ensure that you can create cards super quick and easily. The first one is to have your stamps and dies arranged by theme. If you do this, you have everything at hand. When you want to make a birthday card, you just pull out that birthday section and you're ready to go. The second thing is that your main supplies that you use the most often should be within easy reach, like your bone folder, trimmer, stamping tool, whatever it is that you use often, make sure that you can easily grab and go. And my last tip is that you have pre-cut cardstock on hand. Whenever I'm not feeling very creative, but I want to sit down and craft, this is something that I do. I restock my pre-cut cardstock, so I just need to grab and go. I like to stock main colors and then also card bases for easy access. Thank you for watching today's video. I hope you're inspired to go make your own 5-minute cards. Remember, cards don't have to be complicated in order to be pretty. If you make something after being inspired by this video, be sure to tag me on Instagram. I'd love to come over and leave a like and a comment.